Coming up on the 2014 FIFA World Cup magazine, we catch up with Ronaldinho. We're in Fortaleza to take in the sights and sounds of the Festas Juninas. And we meet Stefania Lacerda, a serial volunteer setting her sights on 2014. But we begin with a reflection or two on the FIFA Confederations Cup, the 9th edition of which was the first to be staged in South America. 8 nations contested the tournament, which was watched by big crowds in the 6 stadia and record TV audiences both in Brazil and in key markets around the world.
The atmosphere inside the stadiums was wonderful. The standard of service was different to that in the Brazilian Championship. We had numbered seating, something we would like to adopt in our domestic competitions. Transport planning across all the host cities was adequate, offering fans and media the best means available to arrive at each venue. The teams travelled on private planes, making their movement between the host cities very smooth.
Goals flowed freely throughout the tournament, with 72 scored in the 16 matches. That's an average of 4.5 per game, a record-equalling statistic for the FIFA Confederations Cup. The football, of course, was centre stage, but there were lessons to be learned as well.
There are still a number of things we have to improve on, including the issue of fans getting access to each venue. Not all the transport infrastructure was ready, as the urban mobility program was on a different schedule. All of our urban mobility projects will be completed by March and April, and will be a true legacy of the World Cup for our entire population.
With 32 nations contesting 64 matches in 12 host cities next year, the completion of those urban mobility projects should ease the concerns of the many fans looking to crisscross Brazil during the 4-week tournament. Not everything went according to plan in 2013, but there's a belief that it will be a different story when the FIFA World Cup kicks off.
We rush things in the lead-up. I hope this will be a great lesson for us. I trust that host cities now understand the deadlines and delivery date for each stadium. We also have to finish the installation of all temporary structures around each venue by March, so that we can run test events in March and April. That will help us overcome any last-minute difficulties when the World Cup starts, and ensure that we have no issues such as the availability of water in the toilets.
The FIFA Confederations Cup reached its climax at Rio's refurbished Maracanã. As well as the 73,000 who were present in the stadium, the final was watched by the largest sports television audience in Brazil this year, with 42 million tuning in to see the Seleção defeat Spain 3-0. All in all, a great tournament for Brazil, but much work remains to be done.
One of our biggest challenges is to secure the delivery of the remaining stadia by the 31st of December, as per FIFA's requirement. We also need to ensure the delivery of all temporary structures by March 2014. In addition, we need to hire 30 or 40 individuals in each host city to staff our local teams. These are just some of the challenges we face. Once all that is in place and we're close to the big kickoff, we will need to run test events when we will simulate problems that we might face so that we can be fully prepared.
So, preparations continue for the country and its national team, who will hope to make the 2014 tournament a FIFA World Cup to remember. Among the many people hoping to secure employment with the local organising committee for the 2014 FIFA World Cup is Stefania Lacerda. The 25-year-old's been a volunteer at numerous FIFA events already, having made her debut in 2008.
At the time, I was studying law, and when I found out about the event that was happening in Brasilia, I decided to apply to become a volunteer. I was accepted for the role and spent 3 weeks on the youth program. It was in this role that the penny finally dropped. I realized that the game goes beyond the white lines of the pitch. that there is so much going on behind the scenes to make it all happen. That was when I decided that I wanted to work in sport.
That experience whetted Stefania's appetite for more of the same, and she soon set her sights on the 2010 FIFA World Cup. But getting to South Africa and staying there for the duration of the tournament wasn't going to be cheap, so she turned to her parents for financial assistance. And their reaction?
Absolutely no way, no way. But I could understand their reaction. I'm their youngest daughter. At the time, I was 18 or 19 years old. I was too young to get on a plane on my own, travel all the way to South Africa and stay there for 45 days. I lived with an African family, so I was immersed in the culture. It was very special. Obviously, it was great as a sporting experience, but the cultural aspect was wonderful too.
Stefania was at it again in 2012, volunteering at major tournaments in Poland and Thailand. And by the time those events were over, her sights had already been set on the 2013 FIFA Confederations Cup. She applied to be a volunteer, but her impressive CV landed her a position with the LOC in Salvador.
The first day I was in South Africa, I remember thinking, wow, I'm in South Africa for the World Cup. And in Salvador, it was no different, because it was the Confederations Cup, preparation for the World Cup. It was hugely emotional, because it really was a dream come true. After 4 years, you take a look at the stadium, you see a game being played in Salvador, and you say to yourself, wow, I'm no longer a volunteer. I've been hired. They believed in my work, and now I can show them everything I have learned.
Given her experience in events, hospitality, media and marketing at previous tournaments, Stefania was able to bring a wealth of knowledge to her role as a venue assistant media officer. And she's now targeting a position at the 2014 FIFA World Cup. And, if successful, she'll be sure to thank her ever-supportive parents.
Every time I talk about my parents, I find it impossible to hold back the tears, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. They've invested in me personally and financially, knowing full well that I was capable of achieving my goals. Without them, I wouldn't be here, and without God, I wouldn't be here either. I know that I'm creating a path and I'm heading in the right direction. Sorry, once again, I am very sentimental. But I think that this is important. Our emotions help us to want more, so I must thank everyone that supported me on this journey. It wasn't easy.
It's a climb.
Sports clubs are part of the fabric of Brazilian society. In Belo Horizonte, Minas Tennis Club boasts 73,000 members at its 4 locations across the city. The main site was originally earmarked for a zoo, but the wife of the city's mayor eventually convinced her husband to allow the construction of a sports club instead. So, in November 1935, Minas Tennis Club opened its doors.
One of our main aims is to help people develop. We have an enormous structure. We spend money, but we cannot forget health, education, principles and values. So the essence of Minas really is to preserve all of these values, so that from sport, from this learning through sport, athletes can transfer skills to their lives as a whole.
Whilst Minas Tennis Club runs a futsal programme, it doesn't cater for football, which is easily the most popular sport here in Brazil. There are 8 different sports on offer to the members, but the most popular nowadays is volleyball, a sport in which Brazil has won 4 Olympic titles since 1992. Still, not everyone can be an Olympic champion.
This is not an industry. It's not a company. It belongs to the associates, to the associated members. So the members' satisfaction is our main goal. That's our objective. This is what we strive for. This is how we run it, and this is why we manage the club the way we do.
Like all Brazilian sports clubs, Minas Tennis Club is first and foremost a social club. But it does boast close to 1,000 athletes who've either experienced the Olympics already or are seeking to do so in Rio de Janeiro in 2016. And with such impressive facilities at their disposal, there's every chance that they will be successful.
I think one of the main differences between Minas and a football club is the continuity from one president to another. And this is one of the secrets of our success. The structure and programs never change, and that has led to great stability down the years.
Every 4 years, the club's 73,000 members elect a council from within, and they in turn cast votes for a president and board of directors, who produce a roadmap for the club, which the staff will then implement. Members range from the very young to the city's senior citizens, so there is something for everyone to enjoy. It's an impressive club in impressive surroundings, so much so that the British Olympic Association has chosen Minas Tennis Club to be its training base ahead of the 2016 Olympic Games.
Minas is very excited by this opportunity to host the British Olympic Committee. We are 3 years from the Olympic Games, but this partnership with the British Olympic Association already means a lot to the club. We really are very satisfied with this arrangement that we've reached with Great Britain. And I think that in return for offering our facilities, we will gain by what we learn from our guests from Great Britain.
Almost 80 years since its formation, Minas Tennis Club continues to grow. It's already the biggest sports club in Brazil, and the cultural events it regularly puts on are a big draw with the members. Well managed, with plenty of sponsors on board, the future looks rosy for this impressive institution. Brazil's produced many great footballers, but who's your favourite? Here to tell us about his is former Denmark international Michael Laudrup.
When you discuss Brazilian footballers, you must realise there have been a very large number. For me, Brazil is football. When I hear the word Brazil, it's like saying samba, football, the beach. And there have been a large number of great players. But if I have to pick one in particular, a unique talent, and we're just talking about talent, then a player like Romario, who I played with at Barcelona, comes to mind. He was fantastic. Yes, 100% talent in everything he did. Sometimes he didn't practice at all. He just did it.
In Fortaleza, as in many cities across Brazil, those fans who were unable to get tickets to the Confederations Cup were able to follow the action on big screens in public viewing areas. In June, though, the locals need little encouragement to venture out, for this is festival time in Fortaleza.
In June, After the dry season in the northeast of the country, the population here traditionally gives thanks for the rain and for the good harvests that come from the plantations. And they do so by paying homage to São João, San Pedro and Sant Antonio, by having a big party.
Originally a pagan festival in medieval Portugal, these festivities have become religious in nature by the time the Portuguese colonizers had introduced them to Brazil. Over the centuries, the festival spread from farming communities to the big cities, and the music, called forró, apparently got its name from the visitors to Natal in the early 20th century.
There was an American base nearby, and at São João time, the machixe trios, as they used to be called, consisting of a triangle player, the accordion player and a singer, they didn't understand why everyone was dancing. Because everyone was dancing, they used to say for all. For all turned into forró, and forró became for all, since everyone was involved in the dance.
Now that city dwellers celebrate the June festivities along with farming communities, the Festas Juninas are just as big as the traditional carnival in February. And as the popularity of these festivals has spread across the country, the traditional music has been adapted somewhat.
We have a forró called pé de serra, the authentic forró from our origins, from our northeast roots. And now the electronic forró has been created. The main difference between the two is that electronic forró is more of an artistic representation, just like all great rock shows. It uses LED screens on stage, very refined lighting, sound effects, stage pyrotechnics, and dancers.
Despite the introduction of modern music, it's the traditional fare that makes the June festivities unique. And across Brazil, children of all ages participate in what's become part of the national curriculum, as well as a public party.
The presentation of a quadrilha junina, that's the dance performed during the São João season, is the wedding between a bride and a groom. As the priest is celebrating the ceremony, the quadrilhas add some funny scenes, like the city sheriff arriving with a gun, saying that his daughter is not allowed to get married. A story is told at that moment, but the story always ends well. The bride and groom get married.
As is the case at Carnival in Brazil, there is fierce competition between the dance groups. Individual outfits can cost upwards of $2,000, so huge sums are involved, particularly for those groups attending from the rural farming communities. Next year's festivities will coincide with the FIFA World Cup, of course, so fans heading to Salvador, Recife, Natal and Fortaleza will be in for a colourful experience.
For 2014, the plan is for the festivities to take place for 15 days during the World Cup, to showcase Fortaleza's culture, Brazil's culture, and the Northeast's São João culture. But we will still have quadrilha presentations. Next year, though, we want to put on an even bigger event, to make the most of the World Cup, to be able to demonstrate our culture to the whole world.
I got the name Gaúcho because everyone that comes from the south of Brazil is a Gaúcho, and I was born there. When I was selected to play for the national team, there was already a player called Ronaldo. So at the time, the person who commentated on Brazil's matches started calling me Ronaldinho Gaúcho, and it stuck.
With the boy now a man, Ronaldinho hardly seems appropriate, but it's the name we've come to associate with one of football's superstars, who was always destined to play the game.
My brother was a footballer, and my dad was also a player. So ever since I was a child, I always wanted to be a footballer.
His talent was obvious from an early age, and at 13, whilst playing with his schoolmates, Ronaldinho once scored 23 goals in a single game.
I remember that match. I still have friends from my childhood and they say, "Oh, 23 goals." And I say, It's because you were really bad. It's not because I was good. When I was a small boy, I always dreamed. I always imagined myself playing football because I had an idol in my house. I always followed my brother's career, and I was certain that that was what I wanted to do. It was the fulfillment of a dream to become a professional footballer, especially coming from a family of football players. And being the youngest, and the last one to become a footballer, it really was a dream come true.
In 1997, Ronaldinho was called up to represent his country at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Egypt. With Ronaldinho outstanding, Brazil lifted the trophy, and he was soon rewarded with his first professional contract with Grêmio of Porto Alegre. It wasn't long before he graduated to Brazil's senior side, impressing once again on the international stage, this time at the 1999 FIFA Confederations Cup in Mexico. Brazil finished as runners-up, but Ronaldinho was the tournament's leading scorer and was also voted its best player.
I had the joy of wearing the national team shirt when I was very young, from the youth categories right up to the senior team. When you pull on the national team shirt, the senior one that is, the feeling is one of huge happiness and great pride.
Inevitably by now, there was no shortage of suitors in Europe, but it wasn't until 2001 that Ronaldinho made the move, choosing France and Paris Saint-Germain. He enjoyed greater success at Barcelona, where he spent 5 seasons, and also played in Italy for AC Milan. In between times, he captained Brazil to victory in the 2005 FIFA Confederations Cup, 3 years after representing his country at the FIFA World Cup in Korea and Japan.
We arrived for the 2002 World Cup full of confidence because we experienced many difficulties just to get to the tournament. So having qualified in the way we did, when we got there we said, we've suffered a lot to get here, so now let's enjoy it. So we were ready, full of confidence and conscious of what needed to be done.
Once in Korea, Brazil, the 4th of South America's 4 automatic qualifiers, were a team transformed. And Ronaldinho scored 2 goals in 5 games, including the winner in the Seleção's quarter-final victory over England. Turkey and then Germany were also defeated as Brazil won a 5th World Cup. Within 2 years, Ronaldinho was named FIFA's World Player of the Year, a title he retained in 2005. The following year, fresh from leading Barcelona to UEFA Champions League glory in Paris, Ronaldinho was part of a strong Brazil squad in Germany for the 18th FIFA World Cup. Having breezed through the group stage, they were eventually eliminated by France in the quarter-finals. And that's as far as they went in South Africa in 2010, when Ronaldinho was omitted from the squad. Now with 2014 on the horizon, he has high hopes for the Seleção as they prepare to tackle the tournament on home soil.
I think it's a Brazil team full of young talent. And by playing at home, I believe all the elements are there for this squad to become champions. They also have a coaching staff that knows how to win. A coach who has already lifted the World Cup. And so they know how to compete in a competition of such importance. Therefore, I believe that everything is in place and we will compete for another world title. It's also very positive to be playing at home with the support of the fans. We can't think about pressure. We must only think about having fun and bringing joy to the Brazilian people.
And that's exactly what Ronaldinho has been doing since 2011, when he returned to his homeland to play for Rio Giants Flamengo. He's since joined Atletico Mineiro of Belo Horizonte and has featured again for the national team since the reappointment of Luis Felipe Scolari late last year. And in July, Ronaldinho added the Copa Libertadores to his impressive list of achievements as Atletico won their first major trophy for over 40 years. Sadly, he wasn't able to force his way into Scolari's thinking for the FIFA Confederations Cup, and at 33, his chances of appearing at a third FIFA World Cup look very slim indeed. World class is a term used all too often, but Ronaldinho is a player who is worthy of that tag. His trickery and that infectious smile have entertained us for years, and for as long as the legs are willing, they will continue to do so. Next time, we return to Salvador to visit the city's oldest market. We're also in Rio, where football is the incentive to keep the kids out of trouble. And we spend time with Mirandinha, Brazil's first export to England's top division. Until then, goodbye.